All right, welcome to number 7 of the show. And today I've got on Andrew Knox. The story that we're about to go into today is one that I haven't been able to get into as yet. I've started in a number of different areas. And then as we just mentioned off show then, we both know a big legend from WA at the moment, Sam Beachy. And I interviewed him probably 2 months ago or 6 weeks ago. And then from that, Andrew, you reached out to me and I got a little bit of your story. And then we started, I got fascinated about what you've been able to achieve, and more in the lead up to today, I've found out more about it. And all I can say is 180 kilograms to 90. That's where we're at, right?
Yep.
That's so impressive, mate. Well done. It's amazing. Amazing. And the way that we're doing this, and the way that I did it last time with Megan, was that we haven't had an intro. So you and I now are meeting. People are listening to us meet, and we're going to have a conversation for an hour. But I just firstly want to say, well done. You've done amazing. And I've got a lot of questions from some of my audience who are fascinated about what you've been able to do. And I'm sure you're going to bring in so many insights. To start off with, mate, tell me a little bit about yourself. And what do we need to know about Andrew?
Well, I suppose probably the biggest thing about me is my life, not only in terms of weight loss, but all facets has completely turned on its head, as you can imagine. And I'm sure, like some of the questions you've probably had, people are probably like, what does that actually mean to lose 90 kilos? So essentially for me, I was working in a retail job. I didn't really have any sort of goals in life. I was just kind of existing. That's the way I see it now, looking back at it. And I actually talk about this a lot with my own gym members at my facility when talking about goal setting and things like that, and just trying to find more purpose with day-to-day life. And I suppose a big thing for me is, I'm pretty cruisy and laid back. In all honesty, that's kind of because I'm a country boy from up in West Australia from Broome, and essentially with that in mind, like that's kind of been my lifestyle the whole way through. And I suppose now it's getting upgraded as now being a business owner and a gym owner and all that sort of stuff. Like it's very exciting to see my progress in the last 12 months alone of owning my own facility.
Yes.
But then using a lot of reflection in terms of my own like daily and weekly gratitudes and things like that, like looking back at my story and actually making sure that I do acknowledge that it has happened. Because there was a while there when I kind of put everyone else first once I'd done my weight loss and became a PT, and I was just like, cool, so it's now about you guys and don't worry about my story and all that sort of stuff. That's not important anymore because it's already happened. So I think that was a big turning point when one of my mentors actually reached out to me and said, you need to actually start embracing some gratitude about what you've actually achieved.
Awesome.
And actually enjoy talking about it. So which is really cool.
Wow. Well, what I find that I can do particularly well, and that's not trying to sound arrogant, but what I like to do is I like to have meaningful conversations, and I already see from where you're at that we're gonna be able to get to the juice of this. What I like to do is try to go deep. I want to go into some of the why. You've mentioned purpose. I like to look at purpose, and I love to look at identity. And I want to go back. I want to go way back. How old are you at the moment, mate?
So I'm 33. Yeah.
33. So what would a 27-year-old Andrew look like?
So 27-year-old, what's that? That would have been just as I'd finished my weight loss, roughly. So about 6-7 years ago. So essentially I just received a phone call from Jeff Jowett, the guy that started Body Trim, a company that was doing weight loss success. And essentially he was trying to get me to Sydney because I'd been dodging the calls because I thought it was a telemarketer. And yeah, essentially, he actually rang, and I just answered it finally in the middle of the day on I think it was like a Tuesday or something. And I was like, oh my God, it's actually Jeff Jow. Like, his voice came across, and you can't miss his voice. And essentially I was like, oh, okay, have you been trying to ring me? He's like, mate, we need to get you to the finals of the Body Trim of the Year for 2013. I was like, oh, okay. So
Wow.
they flew me over to Sydney and all that sort of stuff, and like paid for everything. Again, me, country kid, had never like won anything or done anything outrageous like this before. So that was a massive experience in itself. And then to go and win the Trim of the Year for 2013 for their entire company, and out of like 11 finalists from all over Australia who had all come from different walks of life, like that was a huge turning point for me. That was when that was probably the first time I'd acknowledged I'd really achieved something special. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much did that contribute to your weight? So in the past, so what I'm picking up now is I think it's so good that we're having this conversation now, because you've been maintaining where you're at now for 6 to 7 years. Am I right? Like, this massive trim occurred.
Yeah.
How much did you lose? Where in 2013?
So I dropped 90 kilos in about 18 months. So it took just under 2 years, roughly. So definitely wasn't an overnight thing.
No, I don't think it can be, can it?
Well, yeah, not without like insane surgery, I can imagine. But
yes.
Yeah, like I think that's probably another big thing that made me realize how important my success was that, there was no surgery involved. It was literally, I'd had a moment of realization that I needed to change, and I needed to start investing in health instead of investing in preventative instead of reactive medicine. I suppose that's probably the way I look at it.
I want to go, as I said, there's been a lot of curiosity about this. I think it's very topical. I think as we see, Australia is a fairly big country now. The world, as you travel, I'm going around the world a little bit. Everyone's getting bigger. Like, I'm walking past at the moment, and there's plenty of stomachs that are going around. Like, we're big now, I think, in the Western world. I don't know what you think about that. So I think from your story, there's been a lot of questions. And I think that if we just rushed into how did you do it and what do you do, I think we probably miss out on some of the juice. And what I really want to be able to do is use some of your story, obviously with your permission. So if we go too far, just give me a little hand. But I really want to get into some of the thinking and some of the beliefs that sustained the weight during your adolescence and maybe your young adulthood until you made those changes. Because I imagine there's going to be people that out here that are listening to this, and they're going to be able to make those changes, and we're going to get into the how and what you've been able to do, because what you've been able to do is amazing. But what you mentioned before was that it was your first bit of success. So you had a major achievement in 2013. How much was lacking in terms of yourself, and how much of a correlation was that, if that was right, compared to what you may have been doing with food in the past?
I think.
Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, a big correlation for me is my food, looking back at it now, went from probably 14,000 calories a day on average, which, looking back at it, that's like enough food for, a family of a couple of people for a day or two. But I mean, in terms of the change, I suppose it really was, I didn't actually know any better. I didn't know any better. Like that's probably a big thing I've said to a lot of my clients and people that have asked me about it over the last couple of years is like, how did you change your food? And I'm like, well, I wasn't educated with nutrition. I had no idea of how, say, a digestive system worked. I had no idea of like what calories was doing to my body and the sheer amount I was having.
And it was 14,000 a day.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I'd put away I don't know if you've been to KFC recently, but they do like a family feast where it's like the 21-piece feed of like chicken. It's got like a couple of things of chips, your gravies, your 2-litre bottles of Coke, the desserts, all that sort of stuff, and it's all in one hit. I'd put that away in a sitting myself. And then also, you know, for lunch and stuff like that, I'd literally, before I went to work, I'd go to like Chicken Treat and get like three meal deals. So nothing was ever just a single meal size, really. It was just this overabundance of food. Yeah. So
can I pause here and just see what it's like for you recalling the habits that you had? What's it like for you now to share that with us?
I think I don't really attach emotion to it anymore. I think originally when I first kind of look back at it, probably about 12 to 18 months ago, now that I'm a coach and things like that, like I think originally when I actually looked at the numbers of like how many actual calories I was having, I was blown away. I was absolutely gobsmacked. And to actually put a number figure on it, there was a lot of probably hurt that arose from it in myself. And I think that was probably, again, like a massive turning point, realizing that, like, again, just how much I had achieved in terms of like staying successful with my nutrition for, you know, nearly 6 years now. So I suppose, that was probably the big thing. Yeah, it's just realizing, like, putting an actual number on it and like seeing that, you know, like I literally had no idea what I was doing back in the day. Like that's what it came down to.
Yeah. So that's a massive thing that you say. The first thing that comes to mind, and also one of the key messages that you shared with others, because obviously there's a huge curiosity in how you've been able to do this. Before we switch in, as I've said before, is this okay to continue like this, these questions?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no drama. Yeah.
I'm interested, obviously, with what you do at the moment. As you say, you started with personal training. You've now got your own gym that you run, and we're going to get to that because that sounds amazing, and I'm sure that you'd inspire so many people. And I guess from what you said before about being a coach as well, you'd understand the importance of habits and patterns and how integral they are to establishing a pathway of health, like the domino effect. One layer is onto the other, and you can flow in, flow in, flow in. Equally as important is destructive habits. And I'm interested about what were some of the habits that continued your lifestyle prior to 2011?
Okay, so the destructive habits that were there was that there was no structure to my eating patterns. The only thing is like, I mean, I look at a client now, or even my own food, and it's like, awesome. I have pretty much set times of the day that I eat. You know, I do a bit of fasting, as I mentioned to you before the interview. So usually my first meal isn't until like either late morning or about 12 p.m. So that's been a massive shift. Whereas back then, if there was food in the cupboard, I'd probably be eating at some stage throughout the day. Like, it was just, there was no time structure. There was no sequencing to anything. And there was no, again, like I said, there was no knowledge that the sheer amount of sugars and, you know, processed food that I was having was having such a big hit on my insides.
What were you like as a child? How was your weight from a young age?
Yep. So child, the earliest memory I've got in terms of like something I can actually visually recall, like I can actually play it in my head, is I can still remember back in year 4, we had a weight loss, or not a weight loss, a weight and height chart that was like when we first started doing bar graphs and stuff like that at school. And that was actually up at the front of the class. And like, I can still vividly remember the fact that I was an outlier, as you'd say, because I was about 60 kilos for that kind of age of about, you know, I think that's roughly about 9 or 10. So, which is a fairly big body, as you can imagine, for that age. And I was like a nice kind of steady bar graph, and then all of a sudden this one outlier at the end that was like this huge 60 kilo kid, right? So, but yeah, I'd always been probably the biggest kid in my class. after say year 3 or 4. Like I was a big bodied build, I'd say, and then a lot of my mates caught up in height as we got to like year 6 and 7, so probably a year or so later. But I just I kind of hit my peak of about just on 6 foot in year 7, year 8, so about that 12 to 13. And then just started to get wider and wider
Sure.
and wider and wider. So yeah.
And when did the widening? Was that more through period of adolescence when you?
Yeah. So
What's
that
the
was
language we
more
should
through.
use, man? What's the language to help me to educate me? What should we? Is it just being wider? What's the best terminology to be using to describe it?
Um, I think that's probably the most relatable way to describe it to obviously the listeners and things like that, because, you know, a lot of terminology I hear from clients of my own is that they're just like, they're sick of, you know, the pants getting wider and the shirts being bigger and the, you know, from a clothing point of view, because, you know, everyone attaches a lot of emotional stress and value to, you know, clothing these days, as we know, with image and stuff being so powerful. But I think the other thing is, yeah, I'd say that's probably, in terms of relatability, that's probably the easiest way of explaining it, is that my body just got bigger. Like
started to get wider.
Yeah.
How much of a correlation is there between mental health, so optimal mental health, and getting wider? Like, what happens there? Like, how would you describe some of your years when you were, say, 18 to 23 in terms of happiness and fulfillment, etc.? Like, how did it correlate with the vision you had of yourself and the way you saw yourself?
So on the outside, I was the jolly fat kid. I was very easy to get along with. I've never really had enemies my entire life. I've had people that didn't like my happiness because I was so bubbly and approachable and all that sort of stuff. But again, like, I just didn't really give them time of day once I realized that they just weren't offering any value back, I suppose you'd say. And I think the other thing as well is, like, very internally, like, I used to drink. I could handle a lot of alcohol, being 180 kilos by that stage, as I'd gone to uni at like 18, 19. And it got to the stage where, like, a big night of drinking was 2 full bottles of Bundy rum to myself.
Wow.
And still be able to walk around and things like that, right? So the scary thing with that was there was a few times that I can remember where I actually just left gatherings or parties, you know, at uni, and would just storm home in a fit of tears and sadness. And my mates that were like my close friends were just like, whoa, where's this coming from? And it was just all this internal like stress and emotional sadness that kind of came out.
And what was that about, mate?
So a lot of that was to do with obviously being probably early 20s, I'd never had a partner. I'd never had a relationship in terms of like an intimate relationship. And I think that was probably one of the main things, was that, like, because I was doing engineering at the time and having a crack at that. And like, I actually used to hang out with a group of chicks that were doing engineering at the same time. And because I got on with people so easily and I was easy to hang out with and easy to talk to, like, we used to hang out all the time. And like, they were beautiful ladies, but like, I never saw a possibility of anything happening past being a mate. Like, that was, you know, so that was probably a really internal stress point, I think.
Yes.
Like, that when I got heavily drunk, then obviously all that emotion would come out.
Sure.
Yeah.
How conscious were you of, I guess what you're describing is a longing maybe for some intimacy back then, and a loneliness, and then a sadness, and that would get fueled when you had some alcohol, which is very normal. Also going through those later stages of adolescence and becoming a young man, we're trying to build and discover who we are. We've probably done a little bit of experimenting by then as well, and we're really forming who we are as a person, but we don't get it right at those younger years too.
Yeah.
We still probably don't have it
straight.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
But there's that forming stage for us. How important was it to have like to want someone and to have someone to have those other needs, like sexual needs, how important was that for you, the way you saw yourself?
I think the big thing for me that kind of struck home was that all of my close friends, which I'm still best mates with for life, like they're still my kind of inner sanctum of friends, I suppose you call them. There's probably like 6 to 8 of them that I've known ever since then. They were all starting to find partners by that, 22, 23 phase. And I was still pretty much the odd one out. And I think that was something that I saw as a really big pillar of importance. Yes. But I'd also my mindset had actually started to shift towards probably more the end of the spectrum, where it was like, cool, well, I've always been big. I'm probably going to always be big. I've always been single, so I'm probably going to end up single at like age 60 and die alone, right? Like that was kind of where my thinking was starting to head towards. Yes. Which so obviously isn't healthy, but yeah.
But the emergence of some of these key beliefs, and I imagine that they may have continued to fuel the KFC and to fuel the chicken shop, because what you saw of yourself in the present and in the future was, well, I'm going to be single, so this feeling that I have at the moment is going to exist. Therefore, my behaviors are going to be in accordance to that.
Yeah.
I know we don't think that way, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Looking back at it now, I can definitely see that there's a direct link. Like, and anyone that doesn't see a direct link there is kidding themselves. Like, I've talked to many of my current clients during their first initial consults, right? And some of them need to drop 30 to 40 kilos to be back to a kind of a normalized body weight to start with. And one of their big things is that they just don't accept the fact, or they don't know how to accept the fact that, like, there is a link between their food and their emotion. Like, they just won't accept that a lot of their sadness or their, relationship breakdowns or anything like that, like, is leading and fueling things like the bad habits towards their food, or their sleeping patterns, or, not training or whatever, or even just not being able to self-love themselves, So,
I talk about this in a different way. I talk about this in terms of drugs, but what can seem to be a perceived solution for some people. And there's some similarities. A lot of people will use something like cannabis, for instance, as a way to escape and to cope with things that potentially, as a young guy, we don't have the skills to be able to manage and to process, and then to come up with different solutions. So we have something which supports us to cope. And so therefore we see that, again, we're not conscious of this, but we go to that at times when something's gone on with your family, something's gone on in a relationship, you're not feeling good about yourself, you're feeling worthless, you're not fitting in, you're not sure if you're going to achieve these goals, or whatever it is, you then go to something. Now, this something, which I usually talk about, is drugs, because that's a lot of my clientele at the moment. But what I get the sense is that that can also, there may be some similarities with food, and I'd love to get your input in this in a little bit. But I also see that they see it at the start as a solution. So it makes me happy. It makes me happy. And it's something that escapes. I'm not thinking when I do it. I don't know if that's the case with the food or not. But then that becomes something which fuels the behavior. And then what occurs, it's what's the solution and what's the problem? Because what had a role at the start and had some sort of role, particularly for someone like, I'm talking to myself when I was young. I try to describe myself, and I've said this in past podcasts, I see myself as like an iPhone 10 at the moment, or a 10X, right? But a long time ago, I was the iPhone 4. Now, I could only be as good as the iPhone 4 when it was released. So my version of myself could only be that. I couldn't have been the 10 back there, because the 10 didn't exist. And I had to go through the 4 to get to the 10. So the way that I was able to deal with some of the stuff for my own health, particularly for the first 2 years when I was diagnosed with a terminal cancer and my whole world got turned upside down. I lost my job. I was very lonely. I was going to bed every night thinking, is this me? Like, comparing myself to a lot of people around me who were moving on. And despite I was happy, that would then shine a a spotlight on my inadequacy, my position that I was at the moment. Different relationships were occurring, not sure of what was going to be happening, feeling like shit every day, all these sort of things which occurred. And I only could deal with it as best as I could then because I was a certain version. Now when challenges occur, I imagine it's similar for yourself. The path that we've walked in life has enabled us to be able to cope, manage better because we've got different strategies and solutions, which are these habits and patterns which continue us down in a different path.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, totally agree, man. Like
taking yourself back, was it something that was soothing? So something that was seen as a solution was it seen as something that could support you with coping? Is that something that you and your clients possibly connect with?
Yeah. So a big thing I would always feel was I would dive into like a Domino's pizza, like fresh out of the press, and just instant happiness. Like you just felt great, right? Like it's melted cheese. You can't not be happy when you're eating melted cheese on a pizza. Like that's what it is, right? Like, but probably about 5 minutes, if not less, after finishing that meal, whether it be a mountain of food or whatever, you felt like crap. Like it was just instantly back down to, oh, I've still got issues. Oh, I've still got problems. Oh, I'm still the jolly fat guy that's had a girlfriend or whatever. Like it was just all the stuff came back. And that's when you'd usually go and reach for another small snack. And you'd then go and, exactly. Like, cause you're constantly, and I've related it to drug use as well. I've never been a drug user, but like I've related it to drug use in terms of, with my clients. I'm just like, well, how many times do you go to the fridge and not even realize that you're there? Like how many times are you just on autopilot feeding that next hit of happiness, and then realizing, oh crap, all the biscuits are gone, I've got to go down the shops again, right? Like all of these little things that you're just doing on autopilot without even knowing, right? And that's a scary thing for some of them, because they're like, when you actually get them to track and write down their food each week, they're like, oh my God, like I go to the shops like 5 times a week. Like I used to think, I've had members that have said, oh, I shop like once or twice a week. I'm like, oh, that's good. But when you actually get them to track, and they actually write down when they go,
it's crazy, right?
Like, one of our ladies, she actually said in her consult that she shopped once a week. But then when we actually tracked her week, she actually went to the servo 6 times in 3 days, to get junk on the way home from work, because she'd had a shitty day, as you do, and went for that quick hit again. And it was like she realized that she'd been to the shops 4 times in like 5 days, and was just constantly in and out of the servo on the way home or way to work. So it's when you look at it from that, you go, well, clearly there's a connection between getting that next hit of happiness. Like I definitely see that members are able to go, oh God, this is actually a really bad cycle. It's like, it's a system of bad habits. Yeah.
But what you're able to do there is bring up awareness, because as you say, people are operating just autopilot. If you bring some awareness to that, you then enable people to have a choice. I can continue like this, or I have awareness to say, actually, I need to change and I need to go about this in a different way.
Exactly. And that's where the common excuse comes up, oh, I don't have a choice to be better. Like, yeah, you do. You're just not aware of the autopilot system you're currently running on. And then when you actually get them, like I said, to track and show it to themselves and prove it to themselves, that's when they realize, oh God, okay, I actually am in control. I just don't even know it.
One question, I just want to take us back a little bit. You mentioned before, you gave us a bit of an indication about what some of the commentary could have been like inside of your mind. And it was after you have the Domino's pizza, and it was that 5 minutes of bliss, followed by, I got the sense of it was some regret and then a little bit of guilt. And then the negative self-talk started, I'm the jolly fat kid, I'm going to be alone, etc., etc. What else? How accurate were those statements? Like, what else was some of that chatter that occurred within your mind back then? And I'm not trying to bring it back, and we are going to be shifting very soon to solutions. And I appreciate this so much.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
I think this is going to be very, very valuable for people out there who are listening. And if you are still listening, thank you. Send us some comments. I'm going to put up Andrew's details so you can connect with where he's at. And it sounds like from the group that you're supporting and the questions, it's just you're an invaluable support, man. And I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability. I know that I ask some really hard questions and I explore and I try to excavate and I go pretty deep. And I thank you for being vulnerable and I thank you for sharing. I do this because, like where you were, I think it's helpful for me where I was to try to revisit that, because I know that there's people out there who are struggling with a stage 4 diagnosis or struggling with a diagnosis and they don't know what to do. And I think we both clearly know that the amount of people that are now struggling with their weight is increasing. And I think there's so many people that may be able to connect with this message, and what you're doing is vital work, man. So thank you and much gratitude for what you're able to do and what you are doing.
No worries, man. Yeah, proud to be a part of it. I'm finding it actually really cool to share this on such a different level. I think it's really cool. Yeah,
okay.
Just the back and forth. Yeah,
cool.
Good.
Cool. Good to hear. What was some of that self-talk and some of that commentary? Can you pinpoint how, like, can you recall what some of it was like?
I suppose the other side effect was that I delved a lot into video gaming. And that was another thing in terms of shutting off. I think that was another way of quieting or silencing the chatter in my head. I think that was because, I could often be heard saying, oh, it's a great way to shut off from the world. Like, I love it because I'll go to work in retail for, 8 or 9 hours during the day, do a bit of study, and then like that's my turn off. Like, that's the switch that just goes, like, nothing else happens after that. But I think, probably the most common thing with the talk was, it was just that, probably just that loneliness was probably the most common thing. I think if you boil down to it, that would always come back. Yeah.
How common is that for your clients? How common is that? Do you think, how common is that for people who are struggling with their weight and it's been something that they've been struggling with for a while? How important is this loneliness and this aspect of how they see themselves and whether they're worthy enough and whether they can change, etc.? How, like, on a scale of importance, how important is this?
I think it's definitely like a 12 out of 10. I think the amount of people these days that literally just don't understand what a good day looks like. They don't understand what the word better actually means. They don't actually understand that 1% better each day can literally be, I actually woke up on time. Like that's literally like something, it can seem small, but it can be a massive step forward for the everyday person, right? Something as easy or as simple as having 3 meals at set times for 1 week. Like, if they can stick to that, like, that is a massive leap forward for some of my clients, if not all of them. Because again, like, they're just so used to running on autopilot, and again, they just don't understand that, like, better doesn't need to be perfect.
Yes.
Better just needs to be something that's consistently moved forward towards. So I'm a big believer in, I'm a big believer now that failure is a word that people need to become more comfortable with, because it's part of the process, right? Like, no one would learn what growth or what better feels like if they didn't fail from time to time. Like, nobody gets it right the first go, and nobody gets it right the first go every single time. Like, that's something that I've definitely learned in the last probably 12 to 18 months, especially being a business owner now. It's like, cool, like, there's going to be moments where you have a shitty day, but like, as long as you like take a step back and look at it, you can build from it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm noticing at the moment, I had my wedding just recently, and a business owner as well. I'm in year 3 of my business. I had 7 days off this year before my wedding, and I noticed that my energy was down and my fatigue, and I don't want to get too trapped in this because there's a lot of gold, but basically I had 3 weeks where I was overseas. Now, when I'm overseas, like, say for instance, when I go to Italy, I go to Italy and I want to enjoy the pizza and I want to enjoy the pasta. But the way that I do that, I will fast for probably 18 hours a day. So I will get up in the morning, and some people are like, you're on holiday, just live and let be. But for me, the most important thing is how I feel and my health. So the best way that I have a tool, and what I did in Mexico. So after I finished the wedding, I think it's been 10 or 11 days, maybe 14. I think I've fasted 8 to 10 of them. Just to get me back on track. But okay, Italy, for example, we went there 2 years ago. Rebecca, my wife, and I, we went there, and I wanted to have a glass of wine at night, and I wanted to have some pizza, and I wanted to have some pasta. So I would fast all day. I'd probably have a little bit of black coffee during the day just to keep me kind of going and enjoy the coffee on the beach. And then it would hit about 6 o'clock. I'd have a nice glass of white with some pizza and a pasta, and finish my eating in about a 3-hour window. So I'd get to feel everything. I'd even have a sneaky dessert some days. But then I would just fast again. And it just was a way that I just kept me. It's just such an important tool just to keep me focused. If I'm fasting, I'm just consciously aware that these other habits are going to come with it. So these better habits. And I'm curious as to what you were saying before about the video game. And I think, as you'll know, there's like kind of cluster habits. So a lot of people who are smoking cigarettes, there may be a beer or there may be a can of Coke, which is associated with it. You know, cocaine associated with alcohol. You have 4 beers, then people who are, you know, have been using cocaine in the past and have struggles with it. Bang, 4 beer mark, bang, cocaine comes in. There's these cluster habits. I'm curious about the relationship between video games and then unhealthy eating habits.
So what I've found, because I've worked with a couple of probably teenagers from like that 15 to 17-year-old mark, especially blokes, young lads, since being a coach now. And I think a big thing I've noticed with them, because the parents, because they come in with the consult as well, and like they try and do all the talking, and it's like, no, I want to hear what your son's got to say, because it's him that's going to be training. It's him that's going to be trying to learn the habits of nutrition, because he's 16 or 17. He doesn't know what nutrition is. Like, he doesn't. Like, I don't care who they are. They don't know, right? And I think the big thing with that is that a lot of the time they're like, I'm constantly playing this game on my phone, or I'm constantly like downloading new apps every day, or like, and then, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, so you've got structure enough to look at your phone every day and like log into a game, because it's got daily login, rewards. So, you get a certain amount of like tokens or whatever for that day. And then it's like, cool. How come we can't stick to a food plan for 3 days? Well, and it's like, cool. It's the same thing. You've just got to start looking at it as, if you I think rewards is a big thing with video games, is like you feel that sense of achievement, right? And this is a very common thing with like, we've got a food tracking app that we use with our clients once they're ready for that. They don't get it straight away. And something that I use is the video game analogy. It's like, cool, you've passed level 1 nutrition, you've now passed level 2, you've now passed level 3. Level 4 is when you get access to the app. So now that you've got the app, now it's like, cool, your goal is to fill the bars. So we've got these bars that are like protein, carbs, fats, and, your calories for the day and stuff like that. And I go, cool, your goal or your reward is to hit those bars every day for 30 days.
Awesome.
Right? And it gives them something to aim for. But then the other cool thing as well is, I go, cool, if we don't hit the bars, it's not the end of the world, because the awesome thing is we can restart your 30 days whenever you like. And they're like, oh, okay, so it keeps that reward process alive, but they realize that perfect isn't what we're looking for. We're looking for consistency, right?
Sure.
So,
cool, man. Hey, I'm conscious of time, and I know I spent a lot of time kind of diving. I would love to go deeper and deeper and deeper, but I'm trying to be respectful of your time. And I really want to start making that shift to, what were some of the changes? So what resulted in you getting to the position where you were like, okay, this is enough and I'm going to change? Tell me what the change process was like for you.
Well, the big actual kind of epiphany moment was my dad got diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia. So he was only 58 at the time. So he was still physically fit as a fiddle. He was in the Army Reserves. He used to run 5K with a pack on his back every Saturday morning, like clockwork. And obviously a hero in my eyes. And for him to, within 6 months after being diagnosed, not recognize me face to face, that was a huge turning point. That
How old were you
absolutely
there, mate?
broke me. So that would have been that 2011 mark. So the 2 years, it was pretty much about a month or so before I started changing my habits and doing my weight loss. So,
okay.
So probably about that 25 to 26 mark, I think, roughly. So, yeah, essentially, like, that absolutely rocked me. And I think the big learning point from that was, I don't know where it came from, but I was like, well, I just kept thinking to myself, if Dad can change so quickly for bad, surely I can do something to change for good.
Sure.
Like, surely there's something I can try.
Mm.
I don't know. I think that's just that initial spark that I keep going back to.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that was just that was the turning point. That was, you asked for what made the change. That's pretty much what sparked it into purpose. So, yeah.
And a lot of the time it is a rock bottom that, it's a cancer diagnosis. It is, in terms of addiction, it could be the regret and waking up, or it could be hurting yourself or hurting someone else. It could, for you, no greater loss than losing your father, man. And my heart goes out to you, and thank you for sharing that again. But it's that moment, right? It's that change moment.
Yeah, and I mean, it was, I suppose, because heaps of people obviously ask me, like, oh, what made you change? Like, did you see an ad or something? I'm like, no, it was literally, it was such a hurt point. It was such a big pain point.
Yes.
That, it's always going to be with me. But it also shines through now as that kind of moment of change, and that's initial start to look for better. I think that's where how I approach it now. So I can actually use it to inspire in myself, instead of going back to hurt all the time. Yeah.
And I don't want to jump to an early assumption, but from what you've described just then about your father, the way he was very health orientated, for him to make that shift, for him to support you in the loss, to transform that into your shift, then looks in some ways at your father's legacy and you having a component of him living on within you. Do you connect with that at all?
Yeah, and that's something that, a couple of my aunties and uncles have said, and they've, they definitely see me. They see Dad in me, I should say. And like, a lot of my mannerisms I've gotten from him.
Sure.
The way I relate to other human beings, like my gentle, kind, caring kind of nature I get from Dad, and also from my mum. But yeah, like, there's a lot of the habits that my dad had, that even now I'm noticing as an older male. Like, I'm now noticing a lot more of them shining through. But yeah, so I can definitely see the link there. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But it's also, correct me if I'm wrong here as well, it's also you being where you are now. I see you as living up to who Andrew is as well. And there's obviously an influence from your father, but what you're describing to me, and we haven't got into so much, but what I get is that you're feeling happy, you're feeling fulfilled, you're feeling successful, and you're feeling really good in your own skin. And that just means to me that you're growing into the man that you wanted to be, and that I guess you couldn't see it at a moment in time, but you're now owning and feeling very comfortable within yourself and who you are as a man.
Yeah, I think that really became evident last year when I finally took the plunge to own my own business. I think that was a really big turning point for me, to not only acknowledge the fact that I had achieved quite a lot already, but I also now find that I actually have drive and purpose. I think that's a really strong thing that's come from it all as well. It's no longer just, okay, I'm just trying to help people. It's like, no, I've actually got a drive that, like, if someone comes to me and they need help with this sort of stuff, like, I'm the guy they want to see. Like, that's my purpose. So
that's
like,
awesome, man.
That's really,
I see
really
that so strongly. I see that. Can I ask a question? This is something I'm going to connect with, and partly this is the selfish side of me coming out. But I see that what I went through prepared me for the struggles of business. Now, The third year of business is my best year of business by far. First, I've been growing and everything has been getting better. I want it to get a lot better. I've got some very big dreams in where I'm taking it. I've got some very interesting things that are starting soon. But the resilience and the struggle, the purpose, the determination, the perseverance, all this which I discovered about myself. And I think what my challenges enabled me to be was to live up to who I thought I always was, but I didn't really believe it myself. Now that's prepared me for the struggles of business. How much of your successes with your health now impacted and prepared you to take on another big challenge such as business?
Yeah, cliche as all hell, but consistency is key. Like that's the biggest thing. Like I saw the results of what could happen if I just showed up to train or move my body 3 to 5 times a week and eat better food throughout the week. That is my ongoing message with daily business life as well. Like getting used to hitting the leads list for potential new members daily, at least once, twice, or 3 times a day. Reaching out to members and constantly messaging them to check in and see how they're doing. Like putting that, I think, consistency is probably the biggest thing I've gotten out of it in terms of the direct correlation over to business. Yeah, I think it really is a strong point to, like, if I'm not showing up every day consistently, then what are my members going to show up to?
Yeah.
Like that's probably a big thing. Yeah.
I just want to ask one more kind of key question that I see that there's a lot of value for others out there. And I'm not sure if this is going to be the case or not. What you describe is there's this massive pivotal moment, which is the circumstances which occurred for your father. I'm curious, before that, were there failed attempts at trying to make change or not?
Yep.
I
think it was probably second year uni. I had that kind of really solid group of friends by that stage, because I was living on campus, obviously being from Broome. I was 2,000 kilometers away living in Perth by that stage. So I mean that support network was really solid after that first kind of 12 months of us all getting through the first year of uni together.
Yes.
And I think a couple of us actually started joining the gym that was on campus, and I went and was able to do a few things. And I look back at it now, and it was about the same time that we put an indoor soccer team together. But looking back at it now, like a lot of the time I was in goals, like holding the fort, because obviously I can run around a lot at 160 to 180 kilos by that stage. And it was about that time that there was inklings of like, oh, okay, if I was to stick at this, I could probably do something. But there was never really enough spark.
Yes, the fuel wasn't there, and you needed that pivotal moment to then move you.
Yeah.
And my next curiosity is that what you described was a 2-year period which resulted in this phenomenal outcome, like an amazing outcome, right? My curiosity is, what was it like 2 months in? What was it like 4 months in? What was it like 6 months in? Because I think what you'll see and what we both see within our clients and what we know is that starting and making that decision at times can be something that can come up. Oh, okay, it's this time of year I'm going to start this. But I've got a wedding coming up. Oh, but it's Christmas coming up. Oh, it's my best mate's things coming up. Or it's this coming up. Like whatever we do in this day and age, there's going to be things that come up. The thing for me that I love and what I'm exploring through all these stories is how someone can stay at something for a period of time, because you're not the guy you are without being able to stick at something. And I guess, as you say before, you're not the guy you are without the consistency, and consistency is key. How did you, what were some of the things that you would say that to help others who were starting out in a journey at the moment, or maybe have had failed attempts with their weight in the past, have tried something, haven't really seen the results, not sure what they're doing, tried some habits, but still not seeing correlations for where they want to be? What would you say to them at the moment to continue going, and what they should consider doing?
I did a really good live into our TVC members group a couple of weeks back. Oh, probably about a month or so
What's
ago.
that
And it
acronym?
was
Sorry.
TVC, the Body Consultants. That's our company
Sure.
for our gyms. So the live was about three main things that have helped me along the way, and I think these have become even more apparent. And the first thing is actually writing down what you want to achieve. I think
Awesome.
having a structured goal not only leads to more drive and belief in what you're actually like, what the purpose of why you're showing up. But I think it's also, in saying that, you want to make sure that it's a goal that allows to be like, it's got a system of steps in place as well. So there's no point just saying, cool, I want to be a supermodel. It's like, cool, I want to be a supermodel, but what are my steps I need to action in order to start moving towards that, so that it's not a mountain, but just a series of small hills.
Awesome.
Like that's I think that's probably the number one thing, because if you haven't got an end game that you want to be working towards, then like you're not actually moving forward towards anything. You're just still relying on random. And I think another great thing that comes from removing random by having that goal is certainty. Like you can walk forward, walk taller, because you're certain of what you're trying to hit for. And I think that's something I've learned a lot more through business as well, is like when I can talk to clients about what we offer program wise and what we offer in the gym with certainty, pretty high chance that they join. If I wing it and, oh yeah, it's pretty good, and it's, you know, it's like, oh, we might get you some weight loss, and it's like, no, like when I talk to someone with certainty, I'm like, cool, if you show up 3 to 5 times a week, do our training sessions that we do, and you follow our food, like you will get results. Like that's
So,
it. Like,
so that's
you
what
know,
you're saying, yeah? Some of the keys that you're saying,
yeah.
particularly for other people out there, is you got to
Mm.
be moving. Would you be
Mm-hmm.
saying it's more cardio or more strength and conditioning? What's kind of better for people starting out?
What
And
I would say
I know it's
is,
like
no,
very hard
yep,
for you to prescribe for everyone as well. So I
no,
get
no, that's
you
cool. Yep,
provide a
yep,
personalized program, and I'm going to try to
mm-hmm,
direct it to you. But I'm just wondering,
yep.
people out there at the moment, what should they be doing? Cardio training, or what does it look like?
What I would look at is just daily movement. Now, because most people, and I'm guessing if you've got heavy overweight people, for example, they don't know that just walking to the end of their street 3 times and back is better than sitting on the couch all day watching Netflix, right? Like that in itself can be such a powerful motivator to show them that they actually can start moving.
Hmm.
There's no point me saying, cool, you're 180 kilos, go and join the gym and start trying to pull 100 kilos off the floor with a deadlift, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no certainty with that as a goal. Like I usually break it down. It's like, cool, how much do you move at the moment? Probably not much, because you don't have the body that you're after. What do we need to put in place? So cardio wise, yeah, definitely. Like it's always, like you say, it's going to be situational. I can't just give like a cookie cutter program, I suppose you would
100%.
say.
Yeah.
But I think both have their place. But
Mm.
since adding strength and conditioning work, or weighted resistance training into my programs over the last 3 to 4 years, like the metabolic response the body has is ridiculous. Like
Sure.
compared to just steady state cardio, like it's unreal.
And
And
would you?
I think, yeah,
Sorry, you go. Sorry.
yeah, and I think the body composition benefits of adding in resistance or some form of weight based training to your system of training is just second to none. Like,
And would you
yeah,
say that comes in early, or does that come in after movement, daily movement, cardio, strength and conditioning coming in? How do you kind of piece it together? You don't need to give away all your secrets either. I'm just super
no,
curious.
that's cool. So what I would look at is, yeah, definitely just once that initial goal and target is like set with certainty, and there's belief in like, yep, cool, that's my purpose and that's what I want to hit for. Awesome. How do we move there? Okay, what are we moving at the moment? Are you doing any movement? No, I'm a complete couch potato. I literally watch Netflix from the time I wake up. I'm eating all day and then I go to bed. It's like, all right, cool. So clearly, me trying to smash you in weights or adding weights to your system at the moment, getting you in a gym in front of other people might not be the best idea.
Yep.
How about we work on setting, okay, let's put into your calendar, you're going to go for a 20 to 30 minute walk
Awesome.
every single day,
Awesome.
and just build that, right? And it's like,
Awesome.
oh, okay, yeah, I can do that. And it's like, of course you can, right? You can put headphones in, you can listen to your favorite audiobook, you can put music on, whatever's another little motivator or a driver to help you relax into that. Let's build that habit. From there, okay, cool. You're comfortable with getting daily movement. We've seen that there's a habit there. Usually I've worked on food with them as well, because obviously that's got to be a big part of it too in the background. And then after that, it's like, cool. Do you feel comfortable training in front of other people? You know, like, are you someone that needs group-based training? Because obviously the mental health benefits of group-based training alongside other people that are all in search of better is going to be massive. But you know, you're going to get those people in this day and age, unfortunately, because of the high rates of anxiety, depression, and all these other sorts of social anxieties. You know, they just can't handle people, and it's like, that's okay. Let's find something that works for you. And that's where I would then start going, cool, can we, you know, go to Kmart or somewhere that sells at home equipment you can use to start adding that in.
Sure.
And I mean, I think the quicker I can get them to that stage, the more beneficial, because they're going to start to see body composition improvement as well as just the cardiovascular improvement.
And the best thing I would say that people could listen to as they go for that half an hour walk around the block is this conversation. So putting this in to see the first half and then hearing this at the moment, it's like if I was listening to this and it was about my stuff, it would make my skin crawl because I would be feeling so energetic. And this is why I love capturing these stories, man. Amazing. In terms of food, I know that we spoke before, Whole Foods, so Whole Foods, you keep it quite natural. What got cut out for you? This is a question from the audience. I imagine that a lot got cut out.
Yeah, like an extreme amount, actually. This is actually a fascinating thing I love bringing up with people too, is there was actually a lot of fear when I first started. It was all fear-based. So, yes, I'd looked into the Body Trim method, which was a low-carb based kind of approach to the nutrition. But essentially, I'd kind of gotten to that point where I was so afraid and uneducated towards what carbs and fats both did for my body that I just cut both out. I knew that I loved meat. I knew that I could eat meat all day. I'm very bland like that with my nutrition. Even to this day, I can still eat the same thing over and over. And I think, I think the big thing with that was that I just got to that point where I was like, cool, I'm just going to eat meat and eggs. I wasn't a big veggie eater back then, just a typical 25-year-old that was like, cool, why am I eating veggies? Mum's not around. I don't need to impress her. And yeah, I think that was probably, it was a lot of fear to start with, and just not knowing any different. And yeah, so I just went completely no carbs, no fat, and just ate meat like all day long. Like I was having 3 to 4 meals a day, if not 5, because I'd been told that, you know, that was a great way to get my metabolism firing longer throughout the day and things like that.
Good myths here, man. We're busting. I'm keen to get into this. Sorry, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and I mean, this was a common thing in the fitness industry, you know, nearly 5 to 10 years ago. Like it was like, cool, you just need to eat like all the time.
Yes.
And it was like, you know, and this is the best way
to lose weight is to eat more and eat more frequently. It's like, no, stop eating, do nothing, right?
Yeah. And it was it wasn't until like looking back at it, and I've, you know, tried keto and stuff like that. Like I went strict keto for 4 months last year, where it was like, you know, 5 to I think 10 grams of carbs a day. So it was like less than a banana a day. So
did it for 10 months, man.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like it's a stressful diet, right? Like it's not fun. It's not enjoyable at all. Like,
but it's a treatment. So when I did it for 10 months, I saw it as a treatment. And so if I saw it as a treatment, like the benefits I get from fasting, now different circumstances, but continuously when I'd sit down to a meal, I was doing it to activate a placebo. I was doing this because I had blinkers on. I'm going for one goal only, like you mentioned before. And this meal was more important to me on my priorities list than having the pizza and joining in with the social group, because this is what I'm choosing to do and this is how I'm getting healthy. So it was extremely restrictive. And is it right for everyone? I don't know. But if there's a certain purpose, I think it can be helpful. Sorry to come in there.
Yeah, no, you're fine. That's fine. I think, the big thing I've noticed is that using intermittent fasting most days of the week now. So like I said, most days I'm not eating till, late morning, so 10 a.m. plus. Whereas I used to wake up and it was like, cool, like first thing I'd be eating something, and then 7 o'clock I'm eating something, and then 9 o'clock I'm eating something, and then 1 in the afternoon I'm eating, and then you spend so much time thinking about food all day that it becomes a stress instead of an enjoyable part of your day, right?
Yeah.
And then again, you don't like the process, so you hate it, so you fall off the wagon, and then all of those, you've built this habit of snacking and not actually eating good meals, and then the rabbit hole just continues. So I mean, I've had massive chats with members about this, and I mean, I think again, and I know it can sound very Switzerland, but if you come into nutrition with an open mind, and like you said, if we've got a purpose with what we want from our nutrition, like there's many different ways that we can approach it. Like keto definitely has its place, like I said, and like you said, as a treatment, definitely. I think that's like amazing. But again, it's, if you're looking for a long-term thing that you're wanting to follow and enjoy all the time for the rest of your life, then it'll be touch and go, and it depends on the person, right? But it's the same with veganism. It's the same with, carnivore diet. It's the same with all of these diets, right? Like, I've had people come in and they're doing the apple diet where like they're literally eating 12 apples a day and that's all they have. And I'm like, okay, like, are you getting the body composition,
How
goals from
sustainable
it?
is it?
Exactly.
So choose an
like
approach. Choose an approach, not a diet.
Yeah. Exactly.
Choose an approach, the way you're going to eat and fuel yourself. And for me, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts, simply the best way to maintain weight is through fasting. That's what I believe. I believe that I don't know what your thoughts are on that, and I'd be very intrigued. I think it's going to be okay, so there's a lot of assumed knowledge as well. Everything that goes onto my plate is virtually unpackaged and it's real food. Generally, it's 90%. At the moment, it used to be 95%. It was plant-based. Now it's about 90%. But it's all natural foods that are coming through, and simply fasting. And I know I don't have much of a problem with weight. I still think I do. No, I still think I do. But that and a longer fast at times, how important is fasting, and how sustainable do you see it as a tool? Do you see this as a fad as well, fasting, or do you see this as something which can be an approach to health?
Fasting and keto is very quickly and has become a fad. It definitely has. I feel very strongly on that. But after having trialed it, I can see that it is a very effective way of bringing control back to a person's daily eating habits. I think it's a phenomenal way. And the fact that I'm now able to use it every day in terms of like, and I'm not like strict with my fasting, definitely not, but I definitely enjoy my day more now that I don't have to rely on, okay, cool, have I got 35 meals today? Have I got 6 meals? Have I got, when's my next eating thing? I'm like, cool, I eat when I'm hungry. And I've been able to adjust my body clock in terms of food so that, I eat when I'm hungry. And essentially most of the time, I'm a lot more efficient during the morning now. So like doing morning calls, doing admin at the gym, like, running classes at like 5 a.m. and stuff like that. I'm not thinking about food. I can literally wake up, enjoy the morning. And then, like I said, once I've usually trained, like most mornings I'll do like a fasted training session. And it's, I haven't seen any major drop-offs in strength. I haven't seen any, any like serious problems with it. Now, like we all know, everyone's different, but like that's the general consensus I've had with it, with my approach. And like you said, it definitely is, find a purpose for what you want and then build a diet around that. I think that's what people need to be doing instead.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I'm going to finish up. I'd love to go longer. I'd love to, and I'm keen to, but I'm very respectful. I'm trying to be respectful of your time. I notice that we've already gone a little bit over. I'm very curious, what are your non-negotiables on a daily basis? Do you have non-negotiables?
Yeah, so non-negotiables is definitely celebrating at least one win every day.
Awesome.
That's been a big thing for me for the last 6 months.
You able to share a win from yesterday with us, mate, or today? I know it's 8:30 p.m., 9:30 p.m. in Perth time. Is this
Yeah.
success? Like, what's a win for you today?
Oh, mate, a win for me is the fact that someone has asked me to come on a podcast. I think this is the first time I've ever done this.
Is this your first one?
Yeah.
Oh man, stoked.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's probably the biggest win for today is like, because I've been amped up about it all day. I was telling members about it and all sorts of stuff. So,
yeah, great.
Yeah, I think that's probably my big win for today. I've had some client wins this week that have been like my wins for the day, which has been really great. And I think that's a really cool thing about celebrating at least one win a day is that when it's not even my own personal win, it's even better. Like it's just so freaking cool.
It's amazing, right?
Because you can bring someone else into that win, right? Like that's the really powerful bit. So yeah,
that's amazing. So to wrap up, I've got two areas that I want to explore before we want to wrap up. One is I want to find out a little bit about your gym, and I want to find out how people can find out about that, what they could expect. Is that only open to people in your local area, or can people connect with you online, etc.? I'm interested to that. And then I want to just wrap up and do some closure at the end. Is that okay if we finish like that?
Yeah, that's fine, man. Yeah, no drama.
Perfect, man. So tell us a little bit about your clientele and how people can find out more about you and how they can get started with their journey. They're now hopefully coming to the end of a second walk. You know, they've been listening to this in 2 parts as they followed your advice. This isn't the first time they've listened to the podcast. They're coming back to it and using it as a resource and a tool. They're finishing up now and they're like, okay, I've listened to this once or twice. I want to make contact with Andrew and I'll find out more. What do they do?
So probably the first thing is if like I really love it when people just reach out on Facebook and just send me like an actual friend request and just actually reach out for help. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And then the next thing with that, because I feel that that's such an easier way for people to actually ask the question of I need help, or can you help me, I should say. Because there's no smoke and mirrors. It's like, cool, I'm just asking a dude that's had a great experience. And he puts himself out there as someone that is an expert in fat loss and weight loss. And he loves to help people. So I find a lot of people go, oh, really? That's the best way to talk to you? I'm like, yeah, I love it. I think it's so much more natural. It's so much more relaxed. Everyone uses Facebook, right? Like, I mean, I reached out to you just to say, hey, man, your story's awesome. And I've seen it like a couple of times and like, that was really cool. Like, it wasn't like, hey, I'd love to sell you on something, or hey, can you sell me on something? It was like, I just wanted to say thanks for sharing. Like, I think that was really cool. And then I suppose, from the gym point of view, like, I run the Body Consultants here in Mandurah. So that's my own facility that we have here.
And where is that? Sorry, mate, just for overseas listeners as well.
Yeah, so this is in Mandurah, so just south of Perth. So it's about 45 minutes south of Perth in Western Australia.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, and essentially we've got 4 or 5 other facilities throughout the Perth kind of metro area as well. So mainly a WA-based company for now. But we actually do have a large online coaching availability as well. So we take online coaching. We've actually got clients. Awesome. I've currently got a client in South Australia, and that I'm helping with that. He's kind of my first non-Mandurah client so far, which is really exciting. So which is cool. Another little win. Yes.
Is it guys and girls, mate? Is it both genders?
Yep. So both male and female. We'll take anyone that wants to train consistently and learn. And I think that's probably our big message, is that we keep it simple. It's training, nutrition, and accountability.
Awesome.
And it's the accountability of having a coach that ties it all together. So all the members that walk through our doors have a coach. So whether that's for one-on-one training or as part of the group sessions that we do. I mainly prefer getting people into the group sessions because I'm just a strong advocate of surrounding people with others that are wanting their own better. So, which is really cool. We don't do mirrors at our facility because I just feel with the coaches going through the session, you don't need them. It's a massive ego trip that obviously you see in a lot of gyms, and it's a massive intimidation factor. I think that they're not a necessity unless you're doing potentially, like physique modeling and stuff like that. I get it. But yeah, apart from that, there's no real point in a gym where people just want to be better. Cool. I don't think it's a necessity. So yeah.
But the key thing the key thing is that anyone regardless of where they are, can reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that is through Facebook. And I'm going to connect some
Yeah.
links. So they just need to click on the
Yeah.
links below, and
Yeah.
they'll be able to connect with you and ask some questions and, get
Yeah.
started.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, that's like I said, we've got Big Ben, a mate of mine. He was 220 kilos when he met me. I started looking over his food and stuff like that and getting him eating again. He then came in and trained. We dropped another 10 kilos in the gym. He's down to like 180 now, which is great. So he's like 50 kilos lost overall since I've met him
Wow.
2 years ago. And it's just, and then I've got Mel that's 50 kilos and has had nervous system damage for her whole life, and PTs and coaches have never wanted to help her because they were like, oh no, you're too much of a risk, or nothing can help you. And it's like, cool.
Wow.
During her consult, I was like, awesome, if you're willing to just show up, I will find movements that we can get you doing.
Yes,
I don't care if
exactly.
it's body weight or just like a band or whatever. She can now trap bar deadlift like 40 kilos and just huge
Amazing.
benefits. So
yeah,
we've got people that have trained before, training side by side with like ladies and gents that have never walked in a gym before. So if like I said, if people want to come in and train consistently and put in the effort, then I'll meet them halfway and put it back. So
it seems that way, man. The passion and the purpose is so strong, brother. Thank you so much. It's amazing. Really, really cool.
That's all right, mate.
Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
To close up, I wanted to see how you're doing with this. I know you said it's been a good experience. I just wanted to acknowledge that I know that at the start, I didn't intentionally to go down some of those paths that I did at the start, but I really saw that it was super valuable for people to be able to get an understanding of kind of what life was like before you and what were some of the things that continued a pattern before it got to the moment of shift. Importantly as well, that there was the major shift, and that was about the purpose, and that's been able to live on. And now I believe it's expanding from others, and that's what purpose is all about. But there was some missed attempts, and I'm saying that and I'm stressing that because I really feel that there'd be a lot of people out there at the moment who have tried once or twice or maybe even multiple times and aren't having the results that they are wanting. And I want them to know through your story that it's okay, and it's also very normal for that to occur, but it's probably because they haven't been going about it maybe in the right way, haven't been getting the right support or coaching, and then the accountability, etc., to keep it as a sustainable approach. But I wanted to see, how are you, to finish up this call, how are you at the moment with what we've discussed? How's it sitting with you?
No, I think it's really good. It's like I said, it's a whole new experience. I've been on TV with like Channel 9 and Channel 7 before. I've been interviewed by like Carl and Lisa on the Today Show and stuff like that for my story. But I think to do it in such a nice little kind of laid back, raw session like this, I think it's been really powerful, and I've really enjoyed it. And to touch base on the fact that you've brought up that people will fall down and failure is part of the process of growing and all that sort of stuff. In the last 4 years alone, since my weight loss, I've put on 30 kilos twice. So the thing with that is I injured my finger. I did a tendon injury playing footy. And I was told by the finger specialist that I had to have my finger in a splint because fingers take ages to heal, unfortunately, especially when it's tendon damage. It was 16 weeks of no training, which for me at the time, training was like, it's not only my job, but I had to do it every day.
I feel you, man.
Yeah. And all the bad habits crept in because I went to that dark place of, oh, you can't train, so you're a failure, and all these sorts of things. And that was the first time I realized that I wasn't aware that failure is part of the process. Like it was a really, really strong point. And then the other time was Dad passed away 2 years ago. And it was just another one of those like big moments where it does hit you, and it, especially when it's someone that means a lot to you, big things can come in. But I'm just really grateful for the fact that I had such a supportive partner in Beck, and just like my circle of friends, and also the guys from TBC helped me through that a lot as well. So awesome. With coaching and mentoring. So yeah.
Amazing, man. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I guess what you're saying there, it's normal at times for those habits to go, but the importance is to get back on track. And, at times it can be hard to work out how do we start or how do we continue staying on track. but there's a number of key things that you mentioned right there, which is very essential to keeping you on that path.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you commonly hear it like you're an element of the 5 people that you surround
Yes.
yourself, right? So, like, I'm a massive believer of if you surround yourself with better, positive people, then you can't not be a better, positive person eventually.
Yes.
Like it does. You learn that through association and just surrounding yourself with better. Yeah.
I know I said it's the last question a few times, but one of the key points that you brought up and a feature of that early story of yours was about the loneliness and was about wanting intimacy, etc. And now you've got a girl, yeah, Beck, you just mentioned.
Yep.
How long have you been together? Tell us a little bit about that, just to finish off, because I think it's a very important piece of this as well, in that I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. This is how I'm always going to be. And I get the sense from this conversation, and I've loved this chat, man. I get the sense that the person you are and what you're talking about there about peer group, I actually crossed peer group out because I knew that we didn't have time to get to it. But I know with my Becca, I know with my Rebecca, how much she brings out the best in me, and I want to bring out the best in her. And I can't imagine a person that isn't on the same wavelength of you being in an intimate relationship with her. So tell us a little bit about Becca.
Yeah, so with Beck, probably the big thing with that is she actually reached out to me. So it was I'd been on a couple of dating websites and stuff like RSVP and things like that. Had gone like 3 really shit dates, so I just thought I'd deleted my account and all that sort of stuff. All of a sudden, probably 12 months later, I got an email saying, "Oh, you've received a kiss from this Rebecca chick." I was like, okay. I didn't even know I still had that account, as you do. You sign up for things and completely forget about them. And then essentially, we started chatting over that and decided to meet up and things like that. And like I was really natural about it. Like I'm usually walking around in shorts and a singlet most of the time. And, I asked if she wanted to just come around to mine instead of going to a restaurant and stuff like that. So she thought she was meeting a serial killer. She had her brother on speed dial. And he's 6'5", by the way, so he's a lot taller than me. And essentially, after that, it just got on like a house on fire. And I think the big thing is that she actually helped a lot of growth in myself since then. Like I had only ever owned a secondhand car. I actually through help from her, because I mean she'd had a car loan and all that sort of stuff, and she'd gone through all of that, and she actually helped me realize that I could actually physically own a new car through doing loans and stuff like that. And to some people that doesn't seem like a big thing, but it was a pretty big deal to me, because I'd always ever wanted to like pay with everything up front and didn't think loans were a good idea and all this sort of stuff. So I mean, growth wise from that, like it's
amazing.
I think a big thing of mine is that my positivity helps with her day-to-day life, because she's a veterinarian. So she deals with death and upset humans and all that sort of stuff all the time. So I think my positivity and glow definitely helps get through her day a lot better as well. So
wow, how long have you been together?
It was a good fit there. So 5 years. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yep. Wow. So happy to hear. I'm going to get some of your details and put it up. I've enjoyed this conversation so much. I'm very grateful for you reaching out to me, and that's exactly what you said before. And one of the key things for me is we live in a world where everyone's connected. I know myself from 6 years ago, I would reach out to me now to say, hey, what should I kind of do? And I imagine like for people like yourself would be like, okay, reach out to me. I'm available. I've been there. Plus I've got the knowledge to do it. I can come and help you. And I've got this passion. Make use of me, right? I guess that's the message. And if you're out there, people, please make contact. Doesn't matter if you're in Perth or not. Reach out to him and see how your life can change.
Yeah, I mean, I've had 20-minute conversations with people over the last couple of years that haven't even been online training clients or anything, and just sharing the story or sharing my experience has led to them making better decisions long term. And they're losing weight and they're reaching out every now and then just to say thanks. And it's really powerful, like you said, that we are all connected. We just don't even know it.
Yes,
so
100%. Cool, man. Thank you so much.
No dramas.